I would often climb to the topmost branch of a big tree with my lunch box and water bottle. The swaying motion of the branches would transport me to a trance-like state, where I was asleep but wide awake at the same time. I would lose all sense of time on this tree. I would be perched there from 9 o'clock in the morning to 4:30 in the evening when the bell rang and the school was done. Much later, I realized, unknowingly, I was becoming meditative at this stage of my life. Later, when I first instructed people into meditations, it was always swaying meditations. Of course, I hadn't even heard of the word meditation at this point. I simply liked the way trees swayed me into a state beyond sleep and wakefulness. I found the classroom dull, but I was interested in everything else. The way the world is made, the physical terrain of the land, the way people live. I used to take my bicycle along the mud roads in the countryside, riding a minimum of 35 kilometers a day. By the time I came home, I would be caked with layers of mud and dust. I particularly enjoyed making mental maps of the terrain I traveled. I could just close my eyes when I was alone and redraw the entire landscape that I had seen that afternoon. Every single rock, every outcrop, every single tree. I was fascinated by the different seasons, the way the land changes when it is plowed, when the crops start germinating. That is what drew me to the work of Thomas Hardy, his descriptions of the English landscape, which go on for pages on end. I was doing the same thing in my head with the world around me. Even today, it is like a video in my head. If I want, I can replay the whole thing, those years and years of all that I observed with vivid clarity. I was a die-hard skeptic. Even at the age of 5, when my family went to the temple, I had questions, lots of them. Who is God? Where is He? Up there? Where is up? A couple of years later, I had even more questions. In school, they said the planet was round, but if the planet was round, how did one know which way was up? No one ever managed to answer these questions, so I never entered the temple. This meant they were compelled to leave me in the custody of the footwear attendant outside. The attendant held me by the arm in a vice-like grip, pulling and tugging me around with him as he did his business. He knew that if he looked the other way, I'd be gone. Later in my life, I couldn't help noticing that people coming out of restaurants always had more joyful faces than those coming out of temples. That intrigued me. And yet, while I was skeptic, I never identified with that label either. I had lots of questions about everything, but never felt the need to draw any conclusions. I realized very early that I knew nothing about anything. That meant I ended up paying enormous attention to everything around me. If someone gave me a glass of water, I stared at it endlessly. If I picked up a leaf, I stared at it endlessly too. I stared at the darkness all night. If I looked at a pebble, the image would rotate interminably in my mind, so I would know its every grain, its every angle. I also saw that language was no more than a conspiracy devised by human beings. If someone spoke, I realized they were only making sounds. I was making up the meanings. So I stopped making up meanings, and the sounds became very amusing. I could see patterns spewing out of their mouths. If I kept staring, the person would just disintegrate and turn into a blob of energy. Then all that was left was patterns. In this state of absolute borderless ignorance, just about anything could hold my attention. My dear father, being a physician, began to think I needed psychiatric evaluation.